Stop messing with us.
There's nothing wrong with
You do it in the churches. And that's where you belong.
Your implication was that parents aren't allowed to become part of the sex education program in public schools. I don't know if that's the case. Is it? You think it is?
I think sometimes we're prohibited. I am, as a Christian, I am.
You elect school board members. I mean, in terms of the governmental entity of it, they're representative of you.
But if you look at it, I mean, which is easier to get into a school? A group that teaches Christian sexual principles or a group that teaches Planned Parenthood values? Which would be easier to get into the schools?
None of them. None of them are easy. Why do you want? The point is, why are you avoiding your responsibility? You have churches. The church is the most powerful element in America.
Well, I'm not avoiding my responsibility.
Yes, you are.
No, not me, because I teach. I do workshops on sexuality at
we're
camps.
not talking about you,
know,
as a representative of the church.
Our church, we're doing more.
Yeah, well, that's where you belong.
You know?
The concern when you start talking about it's in the magazines, it's in Hollywood, it's Madison Avenue, is that if we can restrict these things, we'll be better. I think perhaps more information is the answer here, not less information, not restricting information in magazines. Let them exist, but let the church, let the parents in the home.
Yeah, we're not going to stop Madison Avenue.
But you might try.
That's called censorship.
Exactly.
All right.
No, influence.
Well, depends on who's using the term, but I think we need more clear-cut guidelines.
And I think, one of the things that we need to do is to believe young people when they talk to us. And I remember when I first came to Planned Parenthood, a young woman came and she said that she wanted to get birth control. And I talked with her and I said, now, are you sexually active? And went through the questions that we had out. And she said, no, she wasn't. And I said, well, what you need to do is be strong, and you need to say no, and you need to think about what you're doing and say no. And I believe that you should be strong, and so she left. I did not allow her to have an exam. I want to tell you, that same woman came back 3 months later, and she said, I've had sex now, so I guess, now can I get birth control? And so she had an exam, and of course you know the ending to the story, that she was pregnant. And she gave birth. She didn't get married. At that time, we were above the Woolworth store here in Muncie, and I used to see her downstairs in the Woolworth store where the kids used to hang out. And she told me that she loved her baby very much. She wasn't married, but that life was very hard for her. And, I have thought thousands of times since then and wondered how many times she thought about the fact that she asked for help from me at a time when she needed it, and she knew she needed it, and I refused it. And I think we all need to look at that, all of us as adults. I mean, how much do we think we can control another person's life by giving them advice?
So it seems that it would be moral and practical for Christians and the organized Christian church to join with Planned Parenthood in advocating birth control, because that will prevent abortions. So why doesn't the conservative religious community, Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, say, we're going to join with Planned Parenthood, we're going to advocate birth control because we want to cut down on abortions?
It's perfectly all right to say we don't think you should have sex, and it's perfectly all right to say to wait until you're married before you have sex, but if you're not going to, at least don't start the pregnancy in the first place. You see, we're not asking for any substitute values. I think it's perfectly all right for parents, for churches, synagogues to say wait until marriage. I say that myself. But if you're not going to, I'm not going to say, to heck with you. That's the whole point.
Well, I don't say to heck with anybody, but I think that the problem's not birth control. I think we give birth control to irresponsible people.
What do you mean?
How's that?
What do you mean?
A 13-year-old or 14-year-old?
But they're having sex at 12 and 11. What are you talking about?
What would happen if we could teach them not to have sex?
But what if they don't listen to us? They're not listening to us. The parents are saying don't have sex. The churches are saying don't have sex.
How are they saying it, though?
We're very clear. I'm very persuasive. I'm a very good speaker. And I tell a whole audience of 1,000 kids, I don't think it's a good idea for you to have sex. Do you know, the audience boos.
Sure.
And I still say it. I said, but if you're not going to listen to me, I hope you'll use contraception, because it's wrong. It's evil to make somebody pregnant at 12 and 13 to have sex. I say it's evil, it's wrong. So, and if they don't listen to me, are they going to listen to you? They're not listening to you either.
Well, they're going to listen to who they choose to listen to, what they think is right.
They're not listening. the kids, the young people today are not listening to us because we don't have credible messages, and we're not attractive to them. You know, the pornographers, the Madison Avenue, the rock music that says do it now. The commercial people who say if you buy my jeans, boys will want to get in them. You know, those are the people they're listening to. This is a marketplace. We have to get more interesting, more exciting. We have to find a way. I'd be delighted if more people listen to you. How do you like that? I'd be delighted if more people would listen to you.
You know, Harris did a poll, I guess, about a year ago, and one of the things that I thought was very disturbing is that in talking to young people, they asked to what extent they felt that the soaps were accurate, and very close to 50% felt they were accurate, that they gave an accurate picture of life, and that therefore they are making choices based upon what they see as adult society. And of course, you know, who says more than parents, why don't you grow up? Why don't you grow up? And this is what growing up means. And so I think we have a big problem, and that's where our problem is, trying to help them understand what life really is, and of course hoping that they can be protected along the way.
There's no disagreement that education, Charlie, I think is the primary battle in the fight here. But realistically, contraception has its place. Do you disagree with that?
I think contraception has its place. I really do. But once again, I think the place is with couples who are married. I think...
What do you do with teenagers having sex who aren't married then? Tell them not to do it.
Yeah, and then if they don't listen...
Guilt will not change behavior. Consequences will.
Apparently not, because some of the girls have one baby after another.
Their friends get pregnant.
But what are the consequences for having one baby after another?
They don't, the consequences are for the babies. You know, half of all the babies born to teenage mothers end up in prison. 90% of all boys who make teenage girls pregnant abandon them. I mean, we're the ones who are saying these facts, you see, and we're very clear, but they're not listening to us.
But I think
if we didn't have Planned Parenthood, we wouldn't have a million pregnant girls. We'd have 3 million pregnant girls. You wouldn't have 1,600,000 abortions. You'd have 5 million abortions. That's the consequence. If you're talking about consequence, let's get serious.
And of course, this is perhaps going to be a political question, because if the Supreme Court would turn the abortion issue back to the states, it means the abortion and sex education and birth control, because they're all interrelated, would be issues could perhaps be a litmus test for every local politician. We would go to our local politician and say, how do you stand on this issue? And all other issues would get pushed back. Now, perhaps in a way that could be good, because this is a wicked problem. The agenda has to be, different questions have to be raised. Consciousness has to come into being. But it is not a political question, it's a private question.
And ideally, the parents have to be involved, the church has to be involved, schools have to be involved. It's just not going to be one of those, it has to be all of them. Well, we've come to a good summation, Larry. We're out of time anyway, so we might as well sign off here. Thank you, John Rouse, our producer, Saul Gordon, an Oprah-type guest, has been with us today on Public Affairs Roundtable. Barbara Mays, Charlie Gerber, thank you for your comments here today and your contributions. I'm Larry Lough. Thank you for joining us.